Hi guys, welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you as always for tuning in. It means the world to me. Thank you very, very much. And today we welcome along a bit of a personal hero of mine through these doors, the indomitable and fantastic Mr. David Dein. And if anyone who is unfamiliar with David's work, let's take a moment to introduce him right now. So David is an entrepreneur and business icon, charity founder and lover of football and of course the arts, specifically the theatre. His work is dedicated to helping people in more ways than one. From an early age, he has a keen business acumen, creating a wholesale business, supplying food imported from West Africa and the West Indies, inspired by his mother's shop in Shepherd's Bush Market during the Windrush years, to then setting up various charities, including the Twinning Project, which works extensively in prisons to help people get back on their feet after their sentence is up. The project partners with football and the Alliance of Sport in Criminal Justice to help rebuild lives that have had a tough beginning. Trustees of this include Ian Wright and Dame Sally Cotter. In terms of the arts, David was part of Stage 1, a bursary that works with commercial theatre producers to help their work get made. In the last 5 years alone, they have supported 80 new productions, awarded £430,000 worth to emerging producers, and an additional £320,000 worth of top-ups to previous collaborators and creators and partnerships to emerging new musical theatre productions. And of course, he is most famously known for being the former vice chairman of the greatest football club in the world, the Arsenal, being the man who hired Arsene Wenger, winning 18 trophies and guiding us to a season completely undefeated. And if that's not enough, he also received an MBE for his recognition of his achievements in 2019. But all this and so much more would delay the wonderful moment when I say, David Dein, welcome.
Welcome to you. Thank you, Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time today. How are you?
I'm very well. Pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, and likewise, my friend. So we start at the beginning. So many strings to your bow, David, but specifically, where did the love of the arts and theatre, where did it come from?
Yeah, my late father actually was a manager of a tobacconist shop in Leicester Square. And by the nature of the business, he would sort of go in late and work late. And of course, he got to know all the theatre managers and cinema managers in the West End. And very often he would come home and he would have tickets for first nights or openings or rehearsals of shows. And I remember him distinctly giving me a couple of tickets to go and see, when I was only about 15, I remember going to see My Fair Lady with Rex Harrison and Julie Andrews.
Wow.
It was, I think, my first introduction to theatre, and that must have been about 1958. And obviously I used to go as often as I could. Even when I was at school, I would sometimes manage to sneak away in the evenings to go to theatre, because it was obviously football, I suppose, was always my first love, but theatre was very close to it. And I call football theatre without a script. The players are really the actors.
They really are. They really are. Oh, man, we'll talk about football a bit later on today. But another question I had was there, I think you probably answered it there, or if there was another one, was there one performance in particular that really sticks with you? Was it the Rex Harrison, Julie Andrews one, or was it another one which...
I think that was probably one of the very early ones. But, I would go regularly to see what was going. And I don't know how long the Mousetrap is going, but I remember seeing that when it opened. So that will tell you something.
Yeah, I mean, it's been going very strong now. I walked past it actually yesterday, in fact, and it's still going strong. I think they're up to performance like 30,000 or something now. I don't know how many you've done.
And nobody ever tells who does the murder. It's amazing. It's quite incredible.
We keep the secret, yeah. And I don't know if this is a spoiler, but like at the end, the guy, one of the characters comes out and says, like, we have to, now you've seen this play, keep it quiet, keep the secret locked away in here, don't tell anybody.
The secrecy.
Yeah, we're all sworn to it. It's brilliant. So when you go to a theatre, like it's so interesting talking about just like a football icon like yourself, and like your love of theatre sort of intertwined, really, like you say. But when you go to the theatre now, having been for so many years, I mean, what is it that inspires you about theatre? What do you look for in a show that makes you go, wow, that's amazing?
Well, I think you go. Certainly I go to theatre for escapism.
Yeah.
My head is whatever's going on in my mind. All of a sudden, I go to theatre and I get taken into the author's world. I get taken on a journey for a couple of hours, and it's a great distraction for everything else I've been doing. And whatever the theatre may be, whether it's a musical or straight theatre, whatever, right, a drama, thriller, whatever, I'll go and see anything really. And very often, when I was working at Arsenal, I used to go in an evening. I would take myself off to the King's Head or the Hen and Chickens or the Almeida, which was literally a 5 or 10 minutes walk away, and see what was going on there. And I've seen some very good things. I remember seeing, I think it was Peter Hughes in something called Gangster Number 1, and it was a one-man show at the King's Head, and it was so good. I remember he was on stage for about an hour and a half, with a soliloquy. It was quite astonishing, and it never went anywhere. And I thought, the guy's done so much rehearsing, and yet it hasn't gone anywhere for him. So so I've always loved theatre. Yeah, and I think not just escapism, but the fact that I'm being entertained, and I'm seeing people, because I'm used to seeing football live. And here whereas a film is different. You go to a movie, they've been working on it for a year or two, right? And they can work all day and just get 2 minutes of the film. When theatre, the actors are as good as they are that moment.
Yeah.
So they've got to perform. So there is a similarity to football.
Yeah. It's like, would you mind telling the story about the time you met Wenger, which, just for the record, I think was a by chance, wasn't it? He was just passing through London one day, and you invited him back to you got on really well at Highbury, and then he said, well, what was it you're up to tonight? I'm not doing anything. Well, would you like to come and have dinner with us? And yeah, tell us about the game of charades that happened that night.
Oliver, you've just told the story, better than I do. Well done. I remember so well. It was January the 1st, 1989, and Arsenal were playing Spurs that day. And we had 2 rooms for entertaining the directors. One was the boardroom, and their other was an annex, really was for managers or scouts or people really not worthy to go into the boardroom. There was an overflow. And believe it or not, in those days, women were not allowed in the boardroom. It's a fact. We changed that pretty quickly, but yeah. I think they were allowed in the boardroom up to 2:15 for some reason. Then they had to exit stage left, right, and leave the men to chat amongst themselves. It was all very odd, and of course we changed that pretty rapidly. Anyway, and I used to go in at half time just to check out who was in the cocktail. We'll call it the cocktail lounge. And my wife was talking to this very, very elegant fellow in a long grey trench coat. And I recognised him, and he introduced himself as Arsene Wenger. And of course, I knew he was the manager of Monaco at the time. And I got chatting. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm only in for the day. I was in Turkey. I came through. I'm going back to Nice tomorrow." I said, "Oh, really? And what are you doing tonight?" He said, "Nothing." And I've got my own personal motto, which is the motto of the turtle: you don't get anywhere unless you stick your neck out. I stuck my neck out. I said to Arsene, "What are you doing tonight?" And to my astonishment, he said, "Nothing." I said, "Well, my wife and we're going to a friend's house for dinner. Would you like to join us?" He said, "I'd love to. I've got nothing. I'm not doing anything." So then he came back to our house first, and then we took him to our friend's house. Now, our friend was a guy called Alan Whitehead, who was a drummer, used to be a drummer with the Marmalade Pop Group, So we went there for dinner, and then after dinner, he decided to play charades. Is it a book? Is it a film? Is it a play? And so I said, and Arsene didn't really speak English that well. So I said to him in my best French, do you want to join in? And he said, "Okay, yeah, why not?" And the next thing, he's acting out A Midsummer Night's Dream. I remember that. And I thought to myself, Arsene for Arsenal. I'm not spiritual, but it's going to happen one day. It's destiny. but we had to wait 7 years before it did happen.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that was a little bit, that was the charade story.
Wow. Arsene Wenger doing A Midsummer Night's Dream. You
Yeah,
should, yeah, you should have got that on camera, mate. You should have got that on camera.
should have done. But no, but theatre's always been part of my life. And I mean, even now recently, I mean, last week I saw a brilliant play, Inter Alia. I don't know if you've seen that national,
Yes, I have. It's brilliant.
isn't
Brilliant.
it? And
Yeah.
that. Another one which I saw in my wheelhouse because of my charity work is Punch. I don't know if you've seen that.
Not yet. Not yet. No.
There is a play which you have to go and see, which of all plays, and it's a very modest performance given by a guy called Jack Holden. Have you come across him?
It sounds familiar. Yes.
It's a one-man play,
Hmm.
although he's got a guitarist who comes in and out a little bit,
Write this down.
and it's called Kenrex, Kenrex. He takes about 10 parts himself.
All right.
And I saw it at the Southwark Playhouse, and it's now coming, I think, into the West End. I think it's coming to the other Palace, maybe in a few weeks' time. Definitely worth going to see that. I thought it was a tour de force.
Wow. Fantastic.
And I loved recently the revival of Evita, which was phenomenal.
Mm.
I mean, there's so many. Oh, Giant was great.
Mm.
Was at the Royal Court. Yeah, so I always look down and see what's going on, and then just decide. Sometimes when my wife is playing Scrabble with her friends, I take myself off to the theatre. I never mind going alone because I look at it this way: when you go to theatre, you actually don't really talk to the person next to you, so you might be alone. So
Yeah.
I've got no qualms about going to theatre and sitting alone.
No, no, me neither. I love it. It's great, and you have the whole thing to yourself, and you can take,
And and you're on the journey.
yeah, and like you find your own interpretation of the story. And yeah, quick shout out to Inter Alia. I saw at the National a few weeks ago, and it was just, yeah, Rosamund Pike and the other two, just phenomenal, phenomenal cast, phenomenal play.
Very well acted. Really.
Very, very well acted. I was lucky enough to speak to the director of that, Justin Martin, who also directed Prima Facie and other Susie Miller's plays that was on a few years ago with Jodie Comer. And yeah, amazing, amazing guy, an amazing, amazing play. So big shout out to those guys there. So I suppose really like, because you've seen so much theatre and of course you've experienced so much of life as well, is that what do you think, what kind of stories excite you? What sort of things have you seen that excite you, or what kind of stories do you feel like you want to see more of?
Oh, well, I think it's a broad spectrum. I mean, something like Inter Alia, which is just first class
Yeah.
theatre. Against that, musicals. I went recently, I took a couple of my grandchildren to go and see Starlight Express,
Yeah.
Troubadour in Wembley. It is a fantastic production.
Hmm.
It's just mindless fun. Right? You come out feeling invigorated. And it's so talented. Everybody on roller skates, and they've got these trick cyclists. It was such a good production. So I would go from one end to then one minute I'm at the National, the next minute I could be at the Southwark Playhouse, watching something. So I don't know, whatever it is. I just love theatre. I guess I'm frustrated. I think maybe I used to like being on the stage myself at school and things. I think maybe that my frustration coming out thinking I could have been an actor, or perhaps better still, a stand-up comedian. I think that
It's never too late. Never too late.
because I love humour. And then, sorry, thank you, Harvey.
No, you're okay. You're all right.
Fortunate enough
No.
to chair Stage One, which I think you referred to.
Mm.
So Stage One is a charity which gives out bursaries to upcoming producers. And, I found myself, I was invited to chair the board, and all of them, so I'm sitting with representatives of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Thelma Holt and Bill Kenwright's people.
Wow.
It was one of my closest friends, Bill Kenwright, and such a lovely guy. We always go to his first night. And so all of a sudden, from being a theatre, just viewer, all of a sudden, I'm sitting with the producers myself. I felt so honoured. It was a
Yeah, and just to be able to be in amongst the whole thing must have been such a privilege. I mean, for a theatre lover as well, to see how it all works
yeah.
and how it all fits together.
But also, helping young producers, because it's rather and there's a corollary here with football. Football, we have to develop our youngsters to make sure we can produce another Wayne Rooney and David Beckham and Paul Scholes, and we want to produce more youngsters to come through the ranks. And the same better, you've got to get young producers coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose without producers, you don't get the work, do you? Because that's where it starts. Yeah,
And I think that nearly all the top producers now do give mentorships to young up and coming producers, and that is healthy. You need that.
yeah. So, like your role, did you deal with the applications? Were you the one who said we're going to give you this
Yeah,
bursary? So,
we had
yeah,
a committee, and we decided who was right to get awarded a grant, which was about 15,000. I think it's gone up to 20,000 now. So,
okay.
stage one, it's a fantastic charity, and it's very, very necessary. You know,
Oh,
they don't
definitely.
get they don't get enough grants from, as always, from the Arts Council. It's rather like the same. I'm sure we're talking about my charity. We get hardly anything from the government, which is a shame.
Yeah.
While we're doing such great work.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good lead on to the twinning project, which I know you've been a part of, which I mentioned in the intro, is helping people combining football with people in prisons to essentially help them get back on their feet and to give them like a better quality of life. And I think you mentioned in the Arsenal Fan TV podcast that you did, the interview there, is that 64% of people who come out of prison can't get a job or they find it very hard to get a job.
No, the actual stat is within the first year of being released, 64% will reoffend.
Reoffend. Oh, wow.
And that is far too many. And the
Yeah.
reason that is because they cannot get a job or they can't get accommodation.
Mm.
So, do you want to talk about the Twinning Project now and what we do there?
Yeah, yeah, please, please.
So the Twinning Project really came out of, and obviously you read it in the book, but I was approached, and you may have heard of Robert Peston. Robert Peston was at the time the BBC political correspondent. He's actually now with ITV, but at the time, and he's a big Arsenal fan. And he gave me a call about 15 years ago, and he said, "I'm starting a charity. I'm calling it Speakers for Schools because I've interviewed so many successful people in my life. I'd like to get them into schools to encourage youngsters to be sort of iconic figures that they can perhaps be role models for youngsters who are not sure which direction they want to take when they're about to take their GCSEs or A levels." So he said, "Would you be interested in doing a few talks? I only expect about 2 or 3 a year from you." Um, I've done over the past, since we started, 600-700 talks around the country in
Wow.
schools, which I enjoy. I get a buzz out of giving the talks because I get the two magic words, Oliver, at the end: "Thank you," and that's enough. That fills my tank. That's all.
Yeah.
So I've developed an act. It's theatre. I talk for about 45 minutes, and then, sorry, I'm going to be interrupted. I've got somebody at the door. I've got to open the door for. Can we just pause?
Yeah, yeah, sure. No worries, man. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, twinning project. Where were we?
so I was telling you how I got into Speakers for Schools. So, over the course of, I don't know, 14, 15 years, I've been giving talks in schools. And after about 3 or 4 years, I thought, I'm really enjoying this, giving these talks. Where else is there a captive audience?
Mm,
Word captive stuck in my mind. I thought, prisons. Why not go into prisons? I
mm.
thought that was a simple enough idea. It took me about 18 months before I could get into a prison, being shunted around from pillar to post, from office to office. And finally, somebody said, "Well, we'll give you a trial prison to speak to, Rochester in Kent." So I bowl up to Rochester in Kent, and I've got sort of two inspectors there with clipboards checking me out. So I've given talks for FIFA and UEFA and the FA around the world. Anyway, I'm being judged at Rochester Prison. Anyway, afterwards they said, "Yeah, we like your what you're saying. We've got 117 prisons in England. Would you like to go around?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I've been to every prison in England, Oliver. I've been
Wow.
to 17 prisons, many of them twice and 3 times. In fact, next week I'm going to Brixton again, and then Feltham, and obviously prisons outside of London. So while I'm going around the prisons, I'm thinking, what is football doing in prisons? No. And I thought the guys there and the women are bored. They're banged up. They're in a cell for about today. It's such a shame. Anything between 18 and 20 hours a day. They're suffering from boredom.
Wow.
Need something to stimulate them. What about doing something, putting a football club into a prison? So I dreamed up the idea of the Twinning Project, which twins a football club with its local prison. So Arsenal will twin with Pentonville. Mm-hmm. West Ham will twin with Chelmsford. QPR will twin with Wormwood Scrubs. Manchester City will twin with Henley and Manchester, and so on and so forth. So we, Leeds United with Leeds Prison. So we started that charity. The only trouble is, it's very difficult to get money to do it because we have to pay coaches to go in. And that's where we need to raise funds. And that is so difficult because we have very little from HMPPS. That's His Majesty's Prison and Probation Service. So we find it very difficult to get any cash. So we have to have events ourselves to try and raise money.
Yeah. But so am I right in thinking that the project is backed by the FA as well?
Well, yes. What I did was, before I started, I was not going to do it because don't forget, I've been involved with the FA personally. I wasn't going to do it at the FA's permission. I didn't want them to think the football was going to prisons without their blessing. So I got them to agree that they should actually. They would support it in as much as they were very kind to design a special course for the offenders, a coaching course. That when the offenders come out, they actually get a course with an FA badge on it. So it's a level 1 coaching badge, so that they can start coaching when they come out.
Brilliant.
And we put referees in there. Then, of course, we got the Premier League to give their blessing, and then the Football League, and the referees, and the LMA, the Managers Association. So, we've been around, all of the football family to make sure that they approve and that they're happy to back it.
Yeah, I'm just reminded of that, another Wenger quote there. It's like, when I die, I'm going to ask God, which way should I go, heaven or hell? And whichever one he says the referee's in, I'll go to the other one.
Yes, that's I remember that so well with well, because the heat of the moment, they feel the referee. It's a little bit less now with VAR, of course, but it's another subject.
Oh yeah.
And VAR only came in 2018, of course, and Arsene joined in 2006. So he had 12 years before VAR, and he felt he was a bit oppressed sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I think you look back on some decisions we could include VAR, but God, but that's a whole other conversation. But no, I think it's the Twinning Project in particular. You're helping people sort of, like I said in the intro, get back on their feet, or like help cure their boredom, or help to give them like a new way of looking at life. Because like you said, 64% are more likely to reoffend as a result of after being released the first time. So therefore, they're more likely to get back. But you think like doing this scheme, and you really like. One thing that stuck out with me, like preparing for today. I know we've only met a couple of times, David, but it's the fact that you've got this fantastic ability. I feel like you really want to help. You want to give so much to so many people and really help the wider community and everything. So you have this incredible generosity to try and help people like as much as you possibly can. I mean, do you know where that sort of started, do you think?
Very nice of you to say that. I remember the apocryphal story of boy saying to God, "What should I be when I get older?" And God said, "Be kind." And so my children, my grandchildren have always got the same feeling. If you can be kind to somebody, you've got a fair chance they'll be kind back.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, we try and help people less fortunate than ourselves. I think that should be in everybody's locker, that they should always think of somebody they've been fortunate enough to get wherever they've got in life, right? Give somebody a helping hand.
Yeah, exactly. And your energy sort of emanates that, and I think a lot of people owe you a lot of thanks, not just from a football perspective, but for helping them get back on their feet and to just help them see life in a different way, you know. And I tell you what, one thing that there's another quote of yours which I love. I think your mum gave you this, which was always shoot for the moon, and if you miss, don't worry, you'll hit the stars.
Exactly right. You've got it. You've read the book, haven't you, Oliver? So
Yeah,
true. My late mother and I tell that to people now. And my motto, the motto of the turtle: you don't get anywhere unless you stick your neck out. You've got to have a go. You've got to buy the raffle ticket. Go for it.
yeah.
And if you can, obviously, help people, other people along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this incredible charity work is, man. And unfortunately, we're very pressed for time, unfortunately. But David, honestly, I could talk to you for like another 2 hours. Honestly, I've got so many more questions about.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay for another 10 minutes if you are.
Yeah, yeah, sure. No, I've got some final questions, and yeah, let's say how many have I got? I've got about four more, but we'll get through them. So I suppose we'll kick off with this one. So, because of your like, have you ever thought about writing? Because I know you've written the book, and of course, the book is fantastic, by the way. Calling the Shots: How to Win in Football and in Life. Go and get your copies right now. It's a fantastic, fantastic read. I can't recommend it enough. It's got everything in it that you want, from a football story to winning in life, and just brilliant. But I think because you've written the book, and you've been to a lot of theatre, and you've got all this experience working with people from all kinds of different backgrounds. Do you think have you ever had an idea of maybe writing a play yourself, based off some things that you've seen or some stories that you heard that you wish more people knew about?
You should say that. Well, first you've got to remember that I did have a go at co-producing a few plays. You read that in the book, and
Yeah,
one of my first ones I remember was this is a lovely story, but if you don't remember, I'll tell you about it.
yeah, please.
Before I got married, I was actually dating a dancer, and she was working in a musical at the time. And she said, "Oh, you've got to meet. There's an up and coming producer, a young guy. You've got to meet him because I think he's gonna hit it. Maybe you'd think about investing in one of his shows." So I met the guy, and he'd actually just done. I'll tell you who he is in a minute. He
Mm,
just done a musical called Trelawney of the World, and
mm,
then, I love musicals. He said, "I'm going to do a revival of the Cole Porter's Anything Goes.
mm.
Would you like to get involved in that?" I said, "Well, maybe." So I remember going to see him, and I thought, well, okay. So I invested a little bit of money into it, and it went on tour, and I thought it was quite decent. Only the problem is one of the critics the following day said, "Anything goes. The quicker, the better."
Oh,
And after that, I realised we were in trouble, and we
yeah.
were. So it didn't last. It lasted a couple of weeks, and it had to come off. So the producer said, "Look, don't worry. I'm going to make it up for you. I'm going to be a hit in this business. I'll give you a call when I'm doing my next one." I said, "Okay, fine." So about 3 months later, by which time I got married, he said, I've got another musical I'm working on. I'd love you to come and can you come and speak to me about it?" I said, "Well, funny enough." I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I've got a little office above the Fortune Theatre in
Mm.
Dein." I said, "Okay, I'll come and see you." I said, "Funny enough, tomorrow night I'm actually going to the theatre." He said, "I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you. Don't worry. What time do you?" I said, "When the theatre finishes, I'll be there about 10:30. So I went into his office, and he's got a little recording. He's by himself, got a little recording machine, and he hits two buttons, and without any music, but just somebody singing, "Mr. Mistopheles." And I said, "What's all this about?" He said, "Well, it's all about cats." He said, "It's about the alley cat, the street cat, the fact hunting around the room." And I look at him, and of course, it's Cameron Mackintosh. And I said, "Cameron, now these words will haunt me to my dying day." I said, "Cameron, are you mad? We're a nation of dog lovers." Anyway,
Oh man.
and I think he wanted to, for a small investment, he was going to offer me about 20%, and I turned it down. Oh,
Oh, David.
and so anytime I see him once a year or something in a restaurant, I said, "Cameron, we're a nation of dog lovers."
Yeah, I'm vindicated in my decision. I'm vindicated.
There you go. So,
Oh,
uh,
brilliant.
so as far as writing a play, well, funny enough, the book, there's going to be a couple of chapters going to be turned in. One about the formation of the Premier League. That
Yeah.
will be a documentary, and I'll be involved in that.
Oh, brilliant.
Then, obviously, we've got one on the Invincibles. We're hoping to get a documentary around that. So there'll probably be two. I hope the whole book will eventually turn itself into a play, because I think there's a lot of good life messages there, as you read. But anyway, there's certainly a couple of chapters there where bits will be taken out and be made into documentaries.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, when can we expect to see them, do you think?
Well, I would think early next year.
Next year. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's already they're very advanced in the planning stages on both of them.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Just got two more things left for you, David. I know you've got to shoot off to other things in just a second, but can I just very quickly before I ask these questions, I've got to get this story in. Would you mind telling very quickly the story about Patrick Vieira when he first signed for Arsenal, and you go up to him and ask him if he's learned anything? Because when he arrived, he couldn't speak English, so he learned it as he went along. But would you mind telling the story of the phrase he learned from Ray Parlour?
Oh, right. That's funny, yes. Well, of course, when Arsene Wenger came in 1996, he couldn't speak any English. And it was up to me and my best A-level French to make sure the players settled down. And the first player he brought in actually was Patrick Vieira. He came at the time with Remy Gard. And so after a couple of weeks, I would always go down to the dressing room a half an hour before the game, wish the boys good luck. So I went down to the dressing room. I said, Patrick, est-ce que tu peux dire quelque chose en anglais? Can you speak something in English? He said, oui, Monsieur Dean. Yes, Mr. Dean. I said, qu'est-ce que tu peux dire? What can you say? He looked at me and he said, Tottenham Archie. I said, magnifique, Patrick. Fantastic, Patrick. Qui te dit ça? Who told you that? He said, Ray Parlour. And Ray was giving him English lessons.
Oh, I love Ray Parlour. Was he the one when you signed Wenger as well? He was like, who the fuck's that? Yeah.
That's true as well.
So yeah, just two final questions left for you, David, today. First of all, thank you for your time. I know you're probably so busy right now and just there's so many more things I'd love to have you back in the future. Let's definitely do another one of these, do another one of these conversations. So yeah, final two questions for every guest. So what would you say was a bit of advice you wish you heard at the start of your sort of working life? Just like everything, football, everything, like right at the beginning when you're in your shop, in your mum's shop in Shepherd's Bush, like what would you say was a bit of advice you wish you heard at that time?
Well, Oliver, I've always believed in taking a risk, but not being frightened to have a go. You know, you only live life once. Give it your best shot, and that's what I always tell my children, my grand, and indeed, when I'm giving talks, I always say to be successful, there's three qualities people need to be successful. And every successful person I've ever met in my life, they've had the same three qualities: hard work, vision, and courage. You need those three qualities. And they're the minimum, by the way. Obviously, you need a bit of luck, and you've got to be in the right place at the right time. So you've got to meet the right people. You've got to have a champion, somebody to give you a lift up very often. Good people to work with. There's many ingredients to be successful, but they're certainly three basic ones: hard work, vision, and courage.
Absolutely. Amen to that. And then finally today, what would you say has been an experience or experiences you've had in your life and career up to now that you'll never, ever forget?
Experiences I've never, ever forget. On a personal level, the birth of my children, being there when my children were born. I mean, you think it's the first one I've ever done it, when it happened. I mean, it was...
Yeah.
I think that is that on the domestic front. Obviously, I've been married 53 years. I think that's quite an achievement in itself, today's world.
Yeah.
That's something I'm proud of. And I think in football terms, I think obviously assembling with Arsene Wenger the invincible team of 2003-04, winning all those trophies. I was very proud to be the international president of our World Cup bid for 2018, which sadly we didn't win, but going around the world trying to get votes for England. Football's been good to me, and that's why I'm only too delighted to help in what's going on now with football around the world on global basis.
Brilliant. Yeah. David, thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy to talk to you today. And yeah, honestly, I could talk to you for another hour or so. Obviously, I've got so much stuff here. But no, I'd love to have you back, man. Let's do this again sometime. And I think really while I've got you, I think on behalf of every Arsenal fan around the world, for what you did for the club and the Highbury years. I just want to say one thing to you, and that's this. Thank you.
Well, that's very kind of you, Oliver, and it's been a great pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you at theatre one of these days again.
Absolutely. Let's do it. I'll be there for you, man. You got a spare ticket or anything? You just give me a shout and I'll come join you.
Well done, Oliver. Can you send me a copy of that, by the way?
Yeah, of course. Of course. I'll send it over to you now. Just one last thing to say is, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast. I'll be back very, very soon. And wow, David Dein, God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Great pleasure, Oliver.
Thank you.
And I hope your listeners enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Thank you.
Bye.